Hey, it's Juck. Let's get it.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
And welcome into Juck on Bucks, the weekend show. A whole lot of Buckeyes to talk about today. We got some people freaking out about one Mr. David Sanders Jr.
Ohio State didn't have anything going on this weekend. And
Once we get into camp, man, I'm so pumped, guys. Thursday we start. I got some awesome stuff planned. I've been putting out some polls for you guys, and I wanted to get to thanks for participating, by the way. We got a ton of feedback, especially on the one where I want to know where Buckeye fans are at when we talk about the best coaching job in America. I did not put Ohio State on the poll because obviously we're all a little biased, and you can absolutely make a legit case that Ohio State is the best coaching job in the country, especially now when we talk about in the NIL era. You could have before as well, and a lot of people who are not Buckeye fans make that case. Plenty of people. We all got different criteria for this question. Some people will put in quality of life, where you're living, state taxes, and get that deep into it. And some people just stick to the football. I kind of put everything into it, but I went into the question with my one criteria is I want to be the best coach in the history of college football. Where do I go? And that's kind of how I looked at it. This is generally considered a 5-horse race. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, LSU, and Alabama. And when we talk about those states, those schools, Ohio State, Georgia, and LSU are the three big behemoth schools who are the only show in their state. These programs have meant everything to those states. And LSU and Ohio, very talented states. And historically, they absolutely own their state. Very hard to get recruits out of their state, though things are kind of changing on both fronts. Georgia, they own their state too, and their state is now a top 3 most talented state. And when we talk about high-end defensive linemen and offensive linemen, some people might put them number 1 in that department. In recent years, the boom of population around Atlanta has really risen the talent pool in Georgia. And some people might take them number 1 straight up, even though they put more Division I prospects out of Texas and Florida. You know, you could make a serious argument that Georgia is number 1 now. And to be the behemoth in a state like that is a huge advantage. Louisiana and Ohio, they still compete, you know, on the national scale when we talk about recruits. Alabama as a state didn't used to quite be on that level, but now they are. They're up there with Louisiana and Ohio. All 3 of those states put a lot of guys in the NFL. But Alabama still has to compete with Auburn in state. For the most part, Alabama is going to get those high-end guys. But when we look at this year, they have not done very well in their state at all. And they got a heck of a talented class this year as well. Texas is a state with so much talent that there's plenty to go around. You got the 2 big dogs that compete with Texas, and that's Oklahoma and Texas A&M for the talent in Texas. And when we looked at Texas early on, I think it was last week or the week before, they are doing just abysmal in the state of Texas. Absolutely abysmal. I think they had like 3 out of the top 20 prospects in the state committed, which is just terrible. But obviously, the glaring difference between Ohio State and all these schools is Ohio State is the northern school. When we talk about these schools in terms of historical dominance, it's Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, and LSU in that order. In wins, win percentage, national championships, everything lines up in that order. There's a lot of people recently, when we have this argument, who have chosen LSU based on the fact that their last three coaches have won national championships in Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Orgeron. Two of those guys kind of considered bozos and still won national championships with Louisiana talent and Louisiana support. But for decades and decades in LSU's football history, they were absolutely nothing and also ran in the SEC. Kirby Smart is showing right now what you can do at Georgia when you got all systems rolling. And it makes that job look pretty darn tough to beat if you want to be the best coach in the history of college football. But again, a place that has had lots of decades of underperforming. Ohio State, last two coaches, national championships, waiting on Ryan Day to win that national championship. And when he does, you got the same thing as LSU has with the three most recent coaches winning national championships. No, I'm not counting Luke Fickell. As far as recruiting, there's nobody in the North who comes close historically and today to Ohio State. Ohio State has enough in-state talent to field a top 10 team every year, so your floor is extremely high. Jim Tressel's starting lineups consisted a lot of years of, 16 to 20 Ohio dudes, just supplementing a couple of speedsters from here and there. Texas has historically underperformed as well. They rank 8th of the 8 blue bloods in almost every category. A tremendous amount of resources, a tremendous amount of talent, rarely live up to the expectations. Alabama has obviously shown that if you want to be an excellent coach, you can get it done there with the two best coaches, arguably, in the history of college football. But now we've entered into a different ballgame, and you got to factor in the NIL stuff. And as the new college football payroll structure rolls out, every deal over $600, every NIL deal, if it's more than $600, which is essentially every NIL deal, is going to have to be cleared and vetted through a clearinghouse. And it needs to be true NIL, which means a place like Columbus and a place like Austin going to be much more advantageous for these players to get those true NIL deals than a place like Athens or Tuscaloosa or Baton Rouge, though they're all close to larger cities like Birmingham, Atlanta, New Orleans. You still got to think the Columbus and Austin draws, Columbus especially, are going to be better for those true NIL deals. And it remains to be seen how much these guys are going to be able to fudge this kind of stuff. You can run a lot of these NIL deals and they can be fraudulent through companies still, like, let's say I own a business, but I'm a booster. Okay, I'm just going to pay the guy through the business. He's going to do a couple Instagrams for me, and I'm going to overpay him. There's going to be ways around this, which is what a lot of people thought perhaps the Jamie French, Vernell Brown, American Eagle thing was, a way around that. But you don't need to do that anymore. You can just give the dudes money. Ironically, I've got a clip from Tennessee. I'll wait for that. This is you're going to like this. But it remains to be seen how much more the guys at Texas and Ohio State are going to be able to make themselves true NIL deals. We'll see. I think that the Buckeyes are going to do real well in that system. All right, so we're going to get to the vote in a second. We'll see what you guys got. Now, remember, my criteria, I'm going to give you my answer here first. So I want to be the absolute best coach in the history of college football. I want to be loved and revered by the people that love the institution. I want access to as much talent as I need to do that. And I'm I'm a little flashy. You know, I like a little flash. And I actually find it appealing that Texas has underachieved so much, because Juck is going to be that dude when I take over the job in Austin, Texas. I'm coaching the Longhorns if I got my pick outside of Ohio State. All right, you guys are up, and I'm going to give you the poll results, and then I'm going to read a couple of your reasons why. At 205 votes in, we have Texas currently winning. This has been up for a day. It's so close with Georgia that we're going to let it roll for a little longer. So Texas in the lead, 37%, Georgia 33%, Alabama 18%, and this surprised me that LSU was last. I kind of figured that Alabama might be last, but now I'm curious to see what the rest of the country would see if we added Ohio State in there. I think that'd be really interesting. Obviously, we can't do it for our poll. We know that it's going to win. It just will. But let's get to some of your guys' comments and reasonings. A-Train says all those places are too hot and humid. My hair wouldn't look right. Mac says, following the Mac Brown era, you can be the all-time Texas GOAT with a pair of national championships in 5 years. And he's right. And one of the reasons it's kind of appealing to me that Texas coaches have underachieved. Chris Sowers says the best recruiting is in Georgia. I'm going to Georgia. Coates agrees. Big facts. ArcBuck says Alabama and Clemson also recruit Georgia very well, though, which is true. I read to you guys the amount of Georgia players in Georgia's classes. They only average like 7 dudes from Georgia. They take as many out-of-state players at Georgia as we take at Ohio State. The thing is, though, they kind of get all those top-end guys they want. They pretty much hand select them. And right now this week, and we'll get to this, they are having their big event, and their big event this week is including the top dudes, you know, Justice Terry, Isaiah Gibson, the dudes that were committed to USC, who will now be committed to Georgia. They're about to add 2 5-stars. You know, the top end talent there is the best in the country, and they pretty much take their pick and then spot fill around the country. So it is a big advantage for sure. ArcBuck says LSU, they got their own little culture, the best home field, historical team, and unlike Texas, the only big program in the state. And we've hit on some of those reasonings, and he makes a great case, an absolutely great case. For me, I think LSU would be number 2. Terry says, there's so much talent in the state of Texas. Obviously, Georgia has it too, but I feel Texas can provide a bit more. Coach says Georgia because of the talent pool in the state. Rightful One says, I was going to say Georgia, and that's who I voted for. But Texas has a deep talent pool too, and oil money in this NIL era. Give me Texas. So he actually voted for Georgia, but switched his vote to Texas, though it does not come up in the percentage-wise. So that means Texas actually a couple of percentage points higher than we have accounted for in the poll. And we're going to need to remember that if after 3 days it gets a little tighter. Al Rudiger says, Texas for the high school football and for the NIL. Drew says, on paper, Texas is supposed to be the best. I'll go with Texas. Jay Moneyman says, if you're worth your salt and you think you're the best, Alabama has proven with Bear and Nick that they'll maximize your coaching potential with no doubt who's the best in your era. Hard to argue with, right? Jeff Collins, my guy. Jeff makes sure to get in the comments and say good morning to me every day. I appreciate that very much. You guys could do it too. Really helps the algorithm. If you just say a comment, it could even be an emoji. I'd appreciate it. And a like as well. If you want to pop one of those, that'd be cool. Or share it. That'd be awesome. But Jeff says none of the above. And I told Jeff, you got to pick one. And he says the Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course he did. Thanks, Jeff. David says, I wouldn't coach at any of them or any other program in the country. I would projectile vomit if I had to put any of those colors on. Buckeye for life. Yes, we understand. I said, I guess you're going to remain the offensive coordinator at Akron because Ohio State did not offer you. He said, I wouldn't put any other team's apparel on my body. I'll dig ditches with my Buckeye gear on. Respect. Thank you for playing. Joe Renfro says, Michigan. I asked him what's so hard to understand here. Michigan's not on the list. Larry Chanel says none. So, all right, some non-participation from those fellas. But Texas winning right now. We'll see how it winds up in 3 days. I'll keep you updated. And I did want to let you know that we have our last poll, not our last one, but last week we did who's going to be the new helmet for the Juck on Bucks lair. And it has come in. You guys chose North Carolina. Here it is. It is absolutely beautiful. I mean, like, you weren't lying. This thing is gorgeous. Look at that. Love that Argyle. Gorgeous helmet. So good choice, guys. Do like the North Carolina helmet. I don't know if the team quite, there goes Auburn, quite fits in historically with the rest. Well, it doesn't fit in historically with the rest of the schools, but it is gorgeous. So it's a good addition. It definitely looks good with the other helmets. We're going to put the next one up. We're going to add another one next week. So next week, we're taking nominees in the chat today, and then we'll cut it down to 4. So nominees for the next helmet in the chat today. We'll cut that list down to 4, and then we'll add the next helmet, though I'm going to need to figure out a way to display some more. I guess maybe we can build up from that back row. Dylan's awesome. And, you know, we look at the guys who are the beat guys who have the big platforms and are on the shows. I think that guy is every bit as good as every one of them, if not better. I mean, the detail and the answers, and he, you know, he's not afraid to say the things that I don't hear a lot of them say. He's real. He's very real. And we talked afterwards, and he is going to do when he's at practice at camp from the field, either Friday or Saturday, we're going to get him on the show. Hopefully we can do a live spot for that. That would be really sweet to have Dylan on from the Woody on a live show. But regardless, we're definitely going to get that in. And as we go through camp, we are going to kind of have him there to report back what's going on. He will have the schedule for all the access that the media is going to get at camp coming up here in the next couple days. And he's going to become a little bit more of a regular as we head through the rest of camp. And hopefully we'll get him on as much as we can during the season, because I think it's really valuable to get somebody who has that, you know, kind of insight, that firsthand insight as to what's actually going on. I'd really like to talk to him after Tuesday's press conferences with Ryan Day. I think that'd be really interesting to maybe get a little more in depth on those, because, you know, I always like to cover the press conferences. And as we get to the season, we're going to lay out a schedule for kind of what we're going to do every day, Monday through Friday, what those shows are going to look like. Obviously, you know, Monday will be Saturday's recap. Tuesday will be a little more in-depth and coverage of the press conference. Wednesday might be the national recap, you know, what happened on the rest of the national scene as it relates to us. Thursday, probably preview for the next week's game, maybe a little bit of that Wednesday, a little deeper Thursday. And then, you know, Friday, who knows, we get into some more fun stuff, maybe a little bit on the gambling end. Saturday, definitely we'll be doing a post-game show. That'll be a live show. That was the premise of me starting this entire thing, was to get enough followers to be able to have that post-game live show. So that'll be a post-game live show. For the members of Juck on Bucks, we're going to be doing some of the game live stream. We're going to watch some of the game together. And those members got an episode today, a members only episode for the weekend show. If you want to join, it's a cool little community we got going on. And I just found out that our new sponsor, Columbus Apparel Company, is going to be supplying us with shirts for all those members as well. And they'll get to choose their style when they're done designing that apparel line at Columbus Apparel Company. So shout out to them. They are an awesome new sponsor. and I appreciate them a whole lot. On the recruiting front, Trey McNutt did make his way down to Texas A&M, and they certainly want him at Texas A&M. A tweet from Devin Brown's dad: when a D1 quarterback and a D1 softball player hit the skills games at the Ohio Fair together, and they cleaned up on the stuffed animals. I love that. Some new uniforms. What do you think in Notre Dame? Notre Dame's got some new alternates. Those numbers are beveled. They raise up in the middle. I don't like them. I don't like the blue. I don't like the numbers. I don't like anything about them, but you might. And I believe Chris had me go check these out. Chris, I don't even remember whose helmets these are. These aren't Western Kentucky's. They have a new helmet, but who are these guys? I don't even remember who this is. Absolutely hideous. Now, these are Adidas. The Notre Dame ones are Under Armour, and I don't know why. Listen, I'm no big Nike fan. I want to root for Adidas to be better at uniforms and Under Armour too, but they just suck. Like everything they do, it's just horrible. It just is to me. I want them to be better, but they're not. CJ welcomed Devin over the barrier at Texans training camp, and CJ Stroud and Devin Sanchez had themselves a little chat. Later on in it, there's a video, and they exchanged phone numbers. CJ was telling him, yeah, pay attention to OG Walt. Listen, I mean, just a mentor to everybody. The dude is so great. He knew right who Devin was. I mean, he's just awesome. My hose, guys, thank you for the tips. I got the hose hanger securely fastened to the wall. Mrs. Juck is very pleased with me. It's super sturdy, and she could not be happier. In Oregon, they're having their big visit weekend. They got a couple of prime prospects up there, a whole lot of prime prospects. They're feeding them this. They got some ravioli, some rigatoni, a couple of Chips Ahoy, and some kind of ugly sausage there. And this is getting roasted on the social media, what they're feeding the fellas. You know, it's not as bad as what Michigan had some hot dogs and some macaroni and cheese last year at their thing. But, you know, it's not exactly what David Sanders had some couple of fillets. Davis Sanders at Tennessee had a couple of fillets and some canned green beans. I don't know, man. I don't think these kids really care. I think they probably would prefer the sauce-soaked Chips Ahoy cookies with their Chef Boyardee, to be honest. Anyway, the other day we talked about a little bit of recruiting news. Shakai Mills-Knight, 3-star out of Tennessee, who I would have loved to be in this class. I project out of this class, supposedly was making a visit to Ohio State this week. That visit did not happen, and now he's all the way out of the class for me. We talked about Ole Miss. Ole Miss now, Keelan Deere out of the class, the number one back in the country, which leaves them with no running back, and they already have a relationship with Shakai Mills-Knight. I think there's no doubt that's where he ends up, and if he doesn't, it's going to be Auburn or Miami, but he's off the board as far as I'm concerned. Not going to happen. So last year, the Buckeyes held Summerfest, and Summerfest this particular weekend, schools around the country are holding big events. We talked about it last show. The Buckeyes did not do anything, and Spencer Holbrook of Letterman Row said he talked to a source, and that source said Ohio State feels good about where it stands with the bigger recruits that are still available, and that's why they did not feel the need to hold a big event. Now, like I said the other day, I believe it is just as important to hold these events to play defense as it is to play offense. You bring them in, they have a fantastic weekend with the recruits, with each other, or they go have some summer fun on somebody else's campus. It's not a great feeling. Naeem Offord, Ziggy Grady, they're both at Auburn, partying on their campus. Two dudes from Alabama. Chris Henry Jr., Oregon and LSU this weekend. 2026, number one target on the Buckeyes board out of the state of Ohio, Rock Hill, out of Hoban. He's up at Oregon. his first trip up there. And there's been some speculation for some reason, I don't know where it started, that Rock Hill might commit to the Buckeyes early, like real soon here. I talked to Rock and he said that he's planning on doing the full official visits everywhere next season. So, we can forget about any chance of an early commit, according to him. I don't even know where that came from, but I've heard it a lot of places recently. According to him, he's doing the full process, the full 9, though I do think he still ends up at Ohio State as it stands right now. This is his first trip out to Oregon, and he was very much looking forward to meeting Dan Lanning. But not having an event this weekend, I think, is a big strategic error. I know these guys are worn down. I know it takes a lot. I know the official visits take a lot. It's a ton of pressure, a ton of work. You got to be on the whole time. One misstep, you could screw up everything. But I think it's an error, just a missed opportunity. And I think what David Sanders had to say about this weekend highlights what a missed opportunity it was. David Sanders goes to Tennessee and Nebraska this weekend. And I showed you last show the tweet that Dylan Raiola sent out trying to rally the crowd to come out and greet David Sanders when he pulled in. And I got some footage of that.
This is better than I expected. He knew people were coming, but I don't think he understood it was going to be like this. You get a guy like that caliber, and you change the game with that. So hopefully we get him. I feel like we will, and I'm just glad that the fans showed out for us. We got the best fans in the country, so thank you to Husker Nation. I appreciate all y'all. Thank you. Yeah. Go Big Ray!
So the Husker fans showed out in full force to welcome David Sanders. That was a really slick move by whoever orchestrated that. Sure, it wasn't Raiola. Man, I got to tell you, I am I'm really happy with the way that class shook out, and we got Julian saying, and not that guy. He's a talented guy. I don't think he's as talented as Julian, and he just rubs me the wrong way. The transferring high schools and all that, the 3 different college commitments, just really happy with how this ended up, and kind of happy that he's at Nebraska. I'm rooting for Matt Rule. I'm rooting for Nebraska to kind of turn that around and kind of take the step into relevancy, just because I like Matt Rule and I do like those Nebraska fans. And I feel like the way they've been so loyal to that program, who has produced nothing but crap for them for the last 2 decades. Well, not been quite that long. Bo Pelini was winning 10 games there, but I'm kind of rooting for them. I root for fan bases sometimes that I think deserve something, and they deserve a little something. So the excitement around that program, good for them. Anyway, there's 2 lines of thought here when it comes to David Sanders in this weekend. The first one is the line coming out of Tennessee, and that is Ohio State has dropped off, and this is now a Tennessee and Nebraska race. And there's been a lot of different David Sanders, this team and this team, this team and this team, but Tennessee's always been there. That's what they're saying. A couple of On3 guys hinted at the same thing, but On3, I think, tends to sensationalize things to try to get a reaction, and they get no bigger reaction than when it's something negative about Ohio State or positive. Then you got the sentiment coming out from the people who are hopeful that he ends up at Ohio State, and that is he's seen everything he needs to see at Ohio State to this point. He's just going to confirm at Tennessee and Nebraska that he loves Ohio State the most. All his Buckeye questions have been answered. I don't really think it's either of those. But here's what Sanders had to say about it.
Ahead as he'll visit Nebraska, and then he'll go and visit Tennessee. David, you've said that you plan to make an announcement in August. These two visits to Nebraska and Tennessee, why are they really important for you to make these two final trips?
For sure. Well, definitely. I know my top four: Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, and Nebraska. Ohio State didn't have anything going on this weekend, and I feel like I've just been to Georgia plenty of times to know. So obviously, everybody knows I'll take that one trip, which is my official visit to Nebraska back during the spring. So I think they've just been doing such a great job recruiting me since then that I just think they deserved another shot for me to come out and spend some more time with them and just connect. Dylan wasn't here last time because of his sister's graduation, so just getting to spend some time with him. He met me at the airport. We got to talk all the way to the ride to Lincoln, so it's been pretty good so far. And
yeah.
Tennessee, obviously just want to go see them one more time as well since we have the time.
Yeah, when we talked back in Nashville at the On3 Elite Series event, you had a top 6. Nebraska was not in that.
Right.
What did they do, or how did they stay on?
So Tennessee, I just wanted to go see them one more time. Georgia, he's seen him enough. He's been there enough times. Ohio State, they didn't really have anything going on. In Nebraska, they've been recruiting him well. Good relationship with Dylan. Thought they basically deserved it. I think if Ohio State had something going on from what he said there, that he would have been at Ohio State this weekend. They didn't have anything going on. A missed opportunity, a strategic error. And when we listen to Spencer Holbrook's comment, they didn't do anything because they feel good about it. Well, they better because they could have been one of those two spots. It could have been Tennessee and Ohio State. Instead, who knows? Did they open the door for Nebraska to make a little headway? It sounds to me like he's just having fun going out to Nebraska. From that, heading into it, who knows coming out of it? Could they make some headway? Can they compete on the NIL front? I think they can, because like I said before, and why I think they are potentially a legit contender is getting Raiola. And Matt Rule's talked about status. That's a big status recruit. If you can get Raiola and you can now land David Sanders, you have flipped the program's recruiting on its head, and you are now a serious contender moving forward. For every big recruit, you can now get in the ball game with the top of the top. You're now in the ball game if you land Sanders, and I think they will do whatever they have to do to make that NIL deal match what comes from Ohio State and Tennessee. I really do, because it's that important. You could flip the whole script of Nebraska recruiting right here with Raiola and him. Absolutely, 100%. It goes so far when you can land two dudes like that. They are now the real deal again. Not on the field yet, but in the world of recruiting, that is instant legitimacy, and they're going to do whatever they can. Now, they still got to get him interested. I don't know that he's as interested as they want him to be, but I think they'll match the money deal. And this is just the type of dude who is a little bit interesting, you know? When we look at situations, let's say Tennessee, for instance, you know what I mean? Like, he's not interested in Georgia, which is where most guys in his position, they would be down to the Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama thing. He's got different schools in here. The fact that he's even visiting Nebraska, it's interesting. He's an interesting cat. So a little different here. But in my opinion, I don't think he's checking anything else out anywhere. He's been to Nebraska 7 times now, mind you, more times than Ohio State, 5 times since April. And I think this guy knows exactly what he wants to do. I think he's just enjoying his weekend. Taking one more trip out, enjoying his time, having some fun, some summer fun. And he's not having it in Columbus, but he should be. I still feel like this is Tennessee and Ohio State heading into this weekend. I don't think Ohio State's fallen off. I still think it's neck and neck. And I think that this is a decision that is not going to leak. And we're going to come to August 17th when he makes his decision totally up in the air. And it's going to be a true old style recruitment where this stuff didn't leak every time. And I put a tweet out and I had the picture of Terrell Pryor's announcement. We went into that and it was flip of a coin. We didn't know. It seems like now we always kind of know, at least an hour ahead of time. This one's going to be a true coin flip heading into it. I really think that they're going to be able to keep this decision under wraps. And that'll be awfully exciting as we get together here on August 17th. And I don't know if you guys heard this, but I got this in my comments quite a bit, saw it on Twitter. Take a look at this here. Word coming out that David Sanders doesn't really like Coach Fry, and there's too much pressure at Ohio State. He did talk about the pressure not being there at Tennessee, and a lot of people took that to mean that means there's pressure at Ohio State, and pressure coming from obviously Fry under a lot of pressure. Is that coming off in a way that is putting David Sanders off? But the whole David Sanders not liking Fry was everywhere yesterday. And I don't know where it originated from. I feel like when a story like that spreads, it has to have originated from something. I don't know where it came from. I didn't hear it myself. And I'm certainly somebody who's not like shy about criticism of a coach. I've criticized Justin Fry plenty, but that particular comment sounds to me like maybe a little too convenient. It sounds almost like the piling on of Fry to me. And again, I don't know where it came from. Maybe if I knew where it did come from, I would have a different opinion. But it sounds kind of like, Ohio State was able to get rid of or overcome the distance barrier. Remember the big distance barrier from his house? I don't know how you overcome that barrier right off the rip if there's not some kind of connection between him and the guy who he's potentially committing to coaching him for 3 years. Like there must be some kind of connection there. So to say he doesn't really care for him now at this point, I don't know that you get to this point if that's the case, right? Unless something happened. And again, I don't know where that came from, but I still think the Buckeyes are sitting in exactly the same position we thought they were last week, which is neck and neck with Tennessee. And most people felt like the Buckeyes maybe had the slight lead. I don't think anything's changed. Could be dead wrong, but that's just this guy doesn't seem like the type of kid who's just going to flip-flop. So if we're to believe, and I think most of us did, that that's where we stood last week, I still think that's where we stand now. I don't think he all of a sudden doesn't like Justin Fry. And I think he would have been on Ohio State's campus had we had something this week. Let's talk about something good about Justin Fry. Carter Lowe is an absolute beast. And I am very excited for Carter Lowe. He has been totally glossed over because of the David Sanders sweepstakes and because of the lack of offers and because of all the guys we've missed on and because it's only him and Jake in the class. And we don't talk about this guy enough when we talk about our big time recruits. This dude on 24/7 is the 33rd ranked prospect in the class. That is one spot away from a 5-star. And I just believe from watching him at that Rivals 5-star camp, the way he moved, the size he's put on, that he is going to go into this senior season and just dominate in a way that he will move up that board and eventually finish on 24/7 as a 5-star. I don't think he can make up the ground on the composite. And does it matter if he's a 5-star or not? No. But I'm just telling you, I think the dude is absolutely awesome, and he's only getting better. Remember, he's coming from basketball, not even been playing football a ton. But he's dialed in, and he's ready to become a great football player, and boy, does he got the tools. The physical gifts are just glaring when you watch him. So a really exciting prospect and a big pat on the back for Justin Fry for getting him out of Toledo. He was interviewed by Letterman Rowe, and Letterman Rowe interviewed Carter Lowe. He had some good things to say about Justin Fry. He said the relationship is really cool. They clicked early, and he even calls him Uncle Fry. I did find it interesting that in this interview, there were 6 total questions asked to Carter Lowe, 3 of them about himself, 2 about David Sanders, and 1 about a shooting guard at Toledo Whitmer, his high school. So I don't know if I would have gone about it like that if I had 6 questions with Carter Lowe, but you know, that's the way they played it at Letterman Row. Are you guys concerned about anyone flipping out of this class? I'm still not concerned about Naeem Offord. I don't think Alabama and Auburn are players here. I think the only one we got to be worried about is Oregon. Oregon, after missing out on DJ Pickett, just now missed out on Blake Woodby as he is now committed to Auburn, which means they really need a corner. I don't think that Naeem is interested in Auburn or Alabama. I think he's interested in Oregon. And if anybody can flip him, I think it's them. But I'm not concerned. I think he's all Buckeye. There's been a lot of speculation about TJ Alford. With all these barbecues and everything going on this weekend, I talked to TJ yesterday. He's not doing anything. He's sitting at home. I don't think he's a flip risk at all. And I'm happy that that noise has kind of died down. Yes, his dad loves Miami, but he's not getting any pressure from his dad. The only family pressure he's getting from is extended family, and extended family does not sway a decision generally. He's enamored with James Laurinaitis. He absolutely wants to be in this class. And bringing in Riley Pettijohn really even helps that. The only thing I think is at risk here, and now I think is even maybe more than a coin flip that he is out of this class at the end, is Zahir Mathis, who is on Penn State's campus now this weekend. And I think he's now visited Penn State more than Ohio State recently. He just took an official there, 2 weeks ago? He's got 3 teammates that are currently committed to Penn State. I'm leaning more than 50-50 that he does not end up in this class, which, that's not great. Not the end of the world. But Pennsylvania kid, I don't know. It doesn't look great. It does not look great to me. He's still not taking an official visit to Ohio State, but he's taking one to Penn State. Yes, he said he's going to take an official visit to Ohio State during the season. Do we even make it that far before he flips? Yeah, I don't know, man. This guy's a mystery. We hear nothing from him. We see no interviews out of him. He doesn't come to campus. Like, it just seems like, is this guy even in the class? I've not heard a word out of him, which is not always a bad thing, but I don't know. Speaking of Pennsylvania and Penn State, the number 3 running back in the class, the 247 rankings, that is, of 2026, Sean Austin, a kid out of Ohio, Painesville, top 50 overall prospect, was just at Penn State. He absolutely loved it. Buckeyes have not offered him. 24/7's number 3 running back in the country. No Ohio State offer on Penn State's campus. I find that really odd. But in the 24/7 composite, top 140 prospect. So quite a bit of discrepancy there. He's the number 11 prospect in the composite. I watched him, not blown away. Wondering if you guys want to do the top 10 or 15 prospects in Ohio for the class of 2026, break them down. Let me know. I'm always up for that, but I'm not sure if anybody wants to talk about 2026 at this point. But a couple of my buddies had something to say. So first off, these goobers again.
At Ohio State is paying out $20 million in NIL money. I assume that's an annual expenditure.
Just for this year.
Okay. I put on.
I gave it. That's the end. That's it. I just wanted to have a laugh with you guys. 2 of my pals, JR and Chris, had a little show the other day, and I think you can just kind of feel JR's. This kind of represents a lot of you guys, I talk to you guys on the daily, and a lot of the Ohio State fan base, and this just little clip kind of encapsulates it.
But at the end of the day, if this offensive line class is Carter Lowe, Jake Cook, Javen McFadden, who isn't even a lock. Javen McFadden could go to Colorado.
Yeah.
You you could lose on a recruiting battle to Colorado, who signs like 5 kids a year. I mean, Colorado's entire class is signing nearly the same as Justin Fry class is, and you could lose out to him, because that's my biggest thing is like Justin Fry is not getting enough guys on campus, for one, and two, he's not translating those visits into commitments as often as other schools do.
Yeah,
And,
low conversion rate and not enough offers if you're going to have a low conversion rate.
right, exactly. I mean, I get the idea of like, I'm going to offer less because I'm going to close on these guys better. But if you're not a closer, if you can't close on those guys as well, it doesn't do you very much good. You got to go out there. Again, I'm not trying to trash the guy this entire episode, but it's Justin Fry. This isn't James Laurinaitis. James Laurinaitis is on right now the same track.
You can just feel the frustration. And I talked to Dylan about it. It's just it's palpable all through Buckeye Nation. And I don't think it would be anywhere near as bad if there was some foresight and some backup plans. But as it stands, yeah, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. But I think I'm going to have to break this down into 2 episodes, because I think I went about an hour with Dylan and I'm almost about an hour now. Do want to remind you guys that tomorrow I will be doing a live show at 9 p.m. So 9 p.m. on Sunday, the Juck and Chris live show, 9 p.m. on Sunday. Join me and Chris for Juck and Chris live. And who knows, we might make it a regular thing if it goes good. We seem to have some pretty decent chemistry on camera. And that's awesome. So join us. We'll hit some segments. We'll open it up to you guys. And I want to remind everybody.
Yeah, really cool. So for those that don't know, I guess we don't really talk about the business side of this company, but Chris has kind of got a little promotion. He's going to be the program director of all things Menace, in charge of all content. And one of his first things he asked, he said, "Hey, I really like," because Juck came on and filled in for me when I was at some baseball tournament. I thought he was great. And then I found his show because of that. Chris was well ahead of the game. And
I feel like if you have a microphone, I know about
Chris.
you.
Chris watches everything. Literally, he was like, "I want to have this guy Juck on." I was like, "Who's Juck?" Like, okay. I was like, "You think he's good?" He was like, "Oh, I think he's really good." So he had him on. I thought he did a great job on our show. Then I watched his show. I thought he did a great job on his show. So we're going to bring him over.
Yep.
And he's going to give you a kind of a Buckeye morning show starting August 1st here on Menace to Sports. Now we got 3 shows a day. Slowly building.
Really excited.
Really excited to have him over here. If you guys haven't, go follow him on social media, and then you'll be able to find all his stuff here. And then we'll get you on his RSS feed for the podcast side of it once we get all of that finalized. But August 1st, Juck's coming over. Juck on, what's it called? Juck on Bucks?
Juck on Bucks.
I love it. As I know our girl Posh says, the Juckeyes.
The Juckeyes.
So we have the Army. He's got the Juckeyes. So excited about that, man. It's going to be really cool. The level up is.
So, yeah, guys, that's the situation. August 1st, the Monday through Friday show will be over on Menace to Sports at 8 or 9 in the morning. The weekend show, the one you're watching now, and all the live shows are going to be on Juck on Bucks. I will also air the morning show Monday through Friday for the first couple of weeks or so on Juck on Bucks in the evening. But, I want to encourage everyone to go watch it over there. It's kind of the point of the whole thing. Still want you guys to come over here for the weekend show, for our live shows. But, I will continue to remind you guys. And I think that's it for today. I am going to have to break this up into 2 episodes now. I am almost at 2 hours. So that will take forever to download in 1 episode. Any other news and notes that I can think of? I don't believe. Oh my gosh. Should we get into rah-rah? Should we do rah-rah? Let's do rah-rah, and then we'll get out of here. Let's do rah-rah. All right. So if you haven't heard, Georgia wide receiver Rah-Rah Thomas, candidate for the best name in college football, was arrested at 3:30 in the morning, Friday morning, on 2 counts of battery and 1 count of second-degree cruelty to children, a felony. All 3 of these charges carry the family violence distinction. Rah-Rah was arrested by the Athens-Clarke County Police Department and was still incarcerated as of Friday afternoon. Now, with everything that's gone on in Georgia recently, the 24 arrests since the death of a player and a staffer in the drag racing incident, the instinct to pile on for this one is palpable. But when you look at this charge, cruelty to a child, the first thing that comes to my mind, and maybe for you, is something is really, really off here. And how can a head coach possibly have any idea about something like this that's going on? We heard the family distinction. I don't want to make too many assumptions, but, you know, behind closed doors in a family, you know what I mean? And if that was your opinion on this, I would understand how someone could feel that way. And I might feel that way too if in 2002, when Ra Thomas transferred to Georgia after leading Mississippi State and receiving the year before, had not been arrested less than a month after enrolling at Georgia for one count of family violence, a felony count of false imprisonment. So now we're looking at a coach who knew a month after bringing this guy in that something was really, really off. Arrested for a felony count of false imprisonment 1 month after he came to Georgia, but he had led Mississippi State in receiving the previous year. 2022, not exactly a loaded wide receiver room at Georgia. So Kirby rolled the dice because he had a talented football player and he just crapped out. And this time, I suspect we will see some discipline out of Kirby because while Ra Thomas was expected to be the starting X this year, Georgia's loaded up in the portal. They brought in wide receiver Colby Young from Miami. He's going to be a stud. So now Kirby has a pile of dudes that he did not have in 2022 in the wide receiver room when Ra came in a month after he was in, got whatever ridiculous charge that was. Like, what was that, man? Are you, false imprisonment? Cruelty to a child? How do you take this guy seriously as a coach if he's your coach? I mean, I don't think these guys respect him a lick. They certainly don't take him seriously because he's never taken any discipline that's any kind of serious discipline. Even still, this particular case this is just a bad apple, man. This dude allegedly is a bad apple. He should have been gone after that first charge. He was only on the team for a month. Guy comes in for a month and catches a charge like that, and you keep him in the program? Nah, man. This program is off the rails, dude. It's absolutely off the rails. If this happened at Ohio State, this would be national news nonstop. I've barely heard a peep about it. You know, we're looking, and this is an on 3. The amount of issues going on. You remember when Urban was at Florida, man, it was everywhere. I don't hear a peep about this outside of our college football circles. But when you start seeing things like this over and over again over a couple seasons, there's some real red flags here that there's some issues with the little mini dynasty that was building in Georgia. We've seen this happen before. It looked like a couple of years ago, they were set up to create a real dynasty, winning 2 national championships, 2 in the books already. A third one would really cement that. They got the guy most people think is the best coach in college football. They got a ton of buy-in and support. Nick Saban's gone. But we could be seeing a big chink in the armor of this program. And they're the bad guy. They're absolutely the bad guy. And it's going to take someone to step up and upset them. And in the season of dreams, I think we all know what's about to happen. We got to end this. We got to end this rogue program run by this corrupt leader that nobody respects on his team. He's corrupt. He's a criminal. He's a crook. I don't mean to make light of it. Like, this is a ridiculously horrible thing that this guy is charged with. But to allow him to stay on the team after the false imprisonment charge, when he'd only been there 1 month, when you've got a guy that's been with you, you recruited him, you knew his family, you knew his parents, and he's been in your program for a couple of years, and he gets a charge, and that charge was eventually pled down,
and he didn't serve any time from any. It was some diversion program. Usually they do that when you're a first-time offender. If that's the case, and it's someone, you're Ryan Day, and it's someone been in your program for 2 years, I can see keeping that guy on the team. But when you've had this guy for a month, you don't know him, that's a huge, not just red flag, but scarlet letter. Like, we got a problem with this guy. And he rolled the dice and kept him on the team. Now, when you do that, you take on the risk for if it happens the next time, now it's on you that you kept this guy around. And he really needs to feel some heat on this one. And I sure hope he does. Anyway, guys, Chris says, congratulations on 6 months, Juck. You're going to stay in the man cave? Absolutely. I just want to reiterate this. Nothing is going to change about the show. We stay right here in the lair. The length of the show, the topics, the way I do the show, everything stays the same. I remain in total creative control. I've not only been, told don't worry about stepping on toes, but encouraged to. So absolutely nothing changes. I imagine you like the show. Most people say if they like the show that I'm authentic. And that's what I'll continue to be. I'm just me. And that's why they want the show over there, because they like that as well. And that's what I'll continue to be. So absolutely nothing changes, not the set, not the content, not my opinions, not anything. So you can bank on that one for sure. A couple more comments about our rivals. So I had a poll about one more comment about our coaching poll. AJC 1972 says, LSU. Because I would be a very poor head coach, I'll choose LSU. As the drunkest fan base, I'd be able to fleece them for several years before they woke up from their drunken stupor to fire me. Love it. What he did was a little callback to the intro of the show. Obviously, you knew that. You hear it every day if you listen. Johnny 5 says, Ohio State is afraid of USC. That's why they keep them out of the Big Ten. The rivalry, man. The Cincinnati-Ohio State rivalry. So strange to me. It would be like me disliking Ohio State because I'm from Akron and rooting for Akron U. Like, Cincinnati, bro? Like, I root for Cincinnati in the Big 12. Why don't you root for Ohio State when you're from Cincinnati? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Even though it's been explained to me by one of the Juck on Bucks listeners, and it goes back to basketball in like the 40s. But anyway, all right, guys, that'll be the show today. Please like the show. Please check us out on podcast, as the podcast numbers are just abysmal. I'm not quite sure why, but I appreciate you all so much. If you would like to join up for our membership, for the Juck on Bucks membership through YouTube, you can sign up for that on the YouTube page. We had a members only episode today. It was awesome. Everybody loved it. We've got shirts coming for the members only. And it's really cool. It's really fun. I really enjoy them. Nice little community that we got going on in there. And it is very exclusive Buckeye membership there. So if you'd like to join, I would encourage you to do so because I put a lot of effort into that and making sure they get their money's worth, as I do here on the show with you guys as well. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will talk to you soon. Juck on Bucks out.